Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. And guys, we'll definitely have a wonderful show for you as always. Of course, I am Mike Spider Slayer from the YouTube channel Comic Book Corner 2.0. And beneath me, I have Kat Comic Uno.
Hello, guys. What is up?
And then, of course, next to me, I have Brant Fowler. What's up, Brant?
The YouTubeless one. What's up,
All
everybody?
That's right. So yeah, today, guys, we're gonna have a fun show like usual. We're gonna talk about the news. We're gonna talk about the comics, and also, just a little bit of news out there. Like tomorrow's my birthday, so
Happy
which is in
Happy
birthday.
birthday!
hours. Thank you. So the people that are on the show will enjoy will celebrate my birthday first hours of it. So I guess that's pretty cool. I guess, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, hopefully, a birthday haul tomorrow. That's been cool.
Yes, of course. Yep, it's
That'd be
celebrated
awesome.
on New Comic Book Day, so it's great stuff. So anyway, this week we're gonna kick it off. Thank you, Willie, for the birthday wishes. We're gonna kick it off with the thank you, Tevia, with the news this week. Last week we started with the comics, so this week we'll start with the news. And there's not an overwhelming amount of news this particular comic book week, but of course there is some. So kick it away, Kat.
All right. So, we are going to start off with some comic news because we actually have some more media news this week. So, first up, we have I'm going to actually start with the media news because I'm looking at the media news. I'm like, that's not as big as some of these comic news pieces. So let's actually start with the media news. So first up, there's going to be more TV series spinning off for the Suicide Squad movie, which I actually recently seen and been keeping up with Peacemaker, which I think has been a really fun show. So I'm happy to hear that they're doing more. It's kind of cool that Warner Brothers / HBO Max is doing their own version of Disney Plus, but obviously not as bigger and grander. Not as many people are talking about it, but still fun. It's not like the Hawkeye or WandaVision, but it's a good week of television for Peacemaker.
Yeah.
There's not a lot
Is there
that
any-
happens.
Yeah, I was just asking if there was any word on like what the new shows were going to be, or if it was just like left up in the air.
There was
I think
no
it was
word.
left up in the air. Yeah,
no word yet.
I
Gotcha.
think most people wanted King Shark. I think that's what I was like seeing a lot of articles about is King Shark.
Cool.
All right, well, let's get into Brant. You wanted to discuss about this. The Vampire Diaries of Loom, who plays Klaus from Vampire Diaries and was Joseph Morgan, also was in the originals, is going to be Brother Blood in Titans. I am very behind on Titans.
Yeah, I just love this casting. I have watched a good amount of the originals, and he's fantastic as a villain, and I cannot wait to see him as Brother Blood. I just think he's going to kill it, so I'm looking forward to that.
He's a good actor. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do like him a lot. So it'll be interesting to see him in Titans.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into some more movie news. Well, actually, you guys want to talk about Halo, the TV show. I have not seen anything about Halo since Halo 3, and that was like 10 years ago. So tell me why you guys are excited or not excited for Halo.
Because it looks freaking awesome.
It does. It really does.
I mean, that is like I don't know, when I ever played Halo, I was like, man, this could be legit movie. That's what I thought of when I was really into playing Halo. And now that they actually have a show, I think it looks great. And I used to have Paramount. I think I had it free for like a year, and now I don't have it anymore. So I'm going to be disappointed that I'm not going to be really able to watch it, but I definitely want to find a way to see it because it looks really, really good.
Yeah. I do have
Like
Paramount. So.
Oh, you have Paramount? That's like the only one I don't have is Paramount.
We have it on Prime, so we have an add-on Prime for Paramount. But yeah, that's where we have Stars as well. But yeah, it's one of those where we activate it when there's something on there we want to watch, and then deactivate it kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'll be checking this out for sure. It looked really good, and I was pleasantly surprised because I really didn't know what to expect. We've heard about this for a while. I really wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen, and then all this dropped, and it's like, okay, this looks pretty cool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
the CG on it, the CGI looks really, really good. And it's funny, we got a couple comments here on it too, and it says that Halo TV show looks meh. I don't know what Tevi is looking at, but dude, seriously. And Jimmy G says no clue what Halo is. I'm too old. Well, it's a video game from originally launched from the original Xbox series.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say almost like 20 years, right? Like
yeah,
it's old. It's an old game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and then Willie says, Halo, I don't know, an adaptation of a video game could be awesome.
Could be, for sure.
I mean, there's not a great track record, but there are a few out there.
What is there one for you, Brant? What is a good video game adaptation?
I still love the original Mortal Kombat movie. I know you don't. I think that movie is awesome.
I can deal with the first one because when you look at the times that it was made, they only had so much you can do. The second one, though, I'm sorry, I can't give any justice.
No, I agree with you. I agree. The second one sucked.
Yeah.
And the Resident Evil franchise, it's not perfect, but it's fun. It's just
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually, because I've been trying to find a video game to play that I'd actually like play, because there's so many video games out there, but I want to play something on Nintendo Switch so I could like watch something while I'm playing and like do two things at once. And went back to Resident Evil, my roots. I love Resident Evil, so I'm replaying Resident Evil 4 on the Switch, and I'm having a good time with it.
I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog was good.
Yeah, it was
is it good as like a handheld? That's the thing. Like I feel like that's good as on the television. Oh, you mean the movie? I thought you were talking about the game. The movie was fun. The movie was a fun movie.
Yeah,
I didn't even.
The movie looks really good.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a sequel until last week.
Oh, wow. Really? You're behind the times.
When you
I know, right?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. I leaned over to Lisa and I was like, "Did you know there was a sequel coming?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "This is the first I've heard of it." So yeah, when they showed the trailer,
did you miss the Tails scene at the end of Sonic 1, where you're just like, I guess they're just showing that to show that?
I guess I forgot it. No, I did. I do remember it. Yeah, but yeah, and then it was like as I was watching, I was like, "Oh, are we gonna see Knuckles? Oh, there's Knuckles. Oh, we get Tails." I was getting really excited. So yeah,
I'm glad it was like the first time you were watching it because it was.
Yeah, it totally slipped off my radar for some reason.
Yeah, you remember Street Fighter movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of video game movies. Even they had a new Resident Evil movie. I don't know if it's good or not.
I haven't seen that.
I'll go way back. How about like Tron? Well, Tron, the games came out after the movie, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's based on a video. I mean, it is a video game, and then they made a video game of Tron. Yeah. So
I know the Disney one exists. I've never seen it, but not a Tron person.
There was another one.
Detective Pikachu was good, but I don't know if I consider that a video game movie because it's an anime first.
Yeah, that's kind of definitely anime and card game before it was a video game. So.
There was that Dead or Alive.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
You remember that? And then it's like they made a movie out of that where the guy wears like glasses and like it gives him superpowers, and it was like these girls fighting each other and stuff like that. They tried to make it like ultra sexy. It was like a complete bomb. It was so bad. It was such a bad. Oh my God.
I didn't even know they made a movie of that. That's funny.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
Wow.
I'd never seen the movie, but I've definitely seen like the games. So I remember at that time, like, I want something like a gun game, and that would always appear. I'm like, I'm good. I don't want that. I never bought it, but I guess there's a movie as well. But speaking of movies, we have. Oh, actually, speaking of Dead Day is getting a TV show by the people that did Vampire Diaries, maybe the originals as well. I think Julie Plec only did the originals. I don't know if Kevin Williamson did. But
the audience might not even remember what Dead Day was, but that was
it was a while ago.
We all liked it though. Yeah. It was a good. I had to refresh my memory when I saw that. I was like, that sounds familiar. Then I went into it. I was like, oh yeah, that. So yeah,
I'm
that's just,
curious to see how they're going to adapt it because I thought the most interesting part was like that the main girl ended up with somebody that wasn't like the main romance tale. Like it was about an old flame, and they didn't end up together in the end. She was
Yeah.
still with the other person that she ended up with. I thought that was
right.
such a unique twist.
Yeah.
Aftershock did that one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Aftershock. Yeah.
And the writer of Power Rangers, Ryan Parrott.
I
Yeah.
just remember that the character work in that book was really well done, and this story was just a different. Just you thought that it was like this apocalyptic type of book, but it really wasn't. It was an event that happens constantly with dead people rising from the dead, and they would go back to their relatives. So if they knew somebody, they would go back to their home. So it's just like, say I was one of the dead, I would rise and I would go back to my family. That's basically that's what Dead Day is.
It's an interesting concept.
Please don't remind me I sold my Dead Day #1 for $6. I'm sorry, man.
Well, we'll see how well the show does. Like
Yeah.
sometimes these shows, like there's so many comic shows these days. We'll see. I hope it does do well because
It's gonna spike.
I think it has a good team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Spike, yeah.
Right before it premieres, I think it will spike, and then depending on the popularity.
Right, because I mean, how many people bought Dead Day to begin?
I don't think a lot. No.
Right.
And especially since it's been published by Aftershock, so there's definitely not a lot of copies out there probably of it. So if it does do well, it could be a good key to have. So
yeah,
and all three of us have it, so that's a good one for the collection. All right, well, let's move on to our last media piece, which is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will be the last for the team, which, all good things have to come to an end. I think that's okay.
Yeah, I know some of the characters are going to pop up in Thor, but other than that, yeah, it's kind of bittersweet, right? It's like, yes, it's going to be a full arc. We've seen these characters over the course of 10 years, multiple movies, but like you said, all good things have to come to an end. It's it's still going to be sad because I still, for me, the first Guardians of the Galaxy is the best Marvel movie. It's perfect. It's a near perfect movie for me in general. So
I like it because they did something with a bunch of characters that nobody knew and cared about.
And they tried to do it with Eternals as well, and it didn't work.
And they put it out there, and look at how many people love them. And the way they structured Guardians and the way they structured Eternals was completely different. And just Eternals just should have been a Disney Plus show. I mean, we've said it before. Like, if you're going to do character work like that, each episode has a character that fleshes out the particular character. And because that's all it really should have been. It should have never been a movie. It was too long for that.
And I know that it was like the same director, obviously, throughout the same thing or throughout the movie, obviously. So with the TV show, they might be different directors. But what was interesting, I'll go back to Peacemaker. Peacemaker, what's been really unique about that show is that James Gunn writes and directs every single episode of that show. Wow. So they could have done the same thing with Eternals. They could have had the same director for every episode of that show.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question from Bronze Page. Hey guys, are you gonna watch the Walking Dead final shows? No. That's Mike saying that.
And listen. I don't know if you know this, but I am one of the biggest Walking Dead fans. But I just got tired of watching it on TV. It's just way too long of a show. Are you still watching it, Brant?
Yeah, because I took a very long break. Like I missed like 3 or 4 seasons, and then I binged it, and then I took another break, and so it's fresher to me where I didn't continue it. So yeah, I watched the last one. I haven't watched it recently, but yeah, I'm still watching it. Yeah, so I probably will.
Yeah, once Rick died, or didn't die and got transported out of there. That's when it lost it for me. And it was into the whole Whisperer situation. That's when I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, once you got rid of Rick, I'm like, come on. I mean,
I think when
was
they faked Len's death, that's when I was like, what is this show anymore? What is Stakes? And like,
and then killed him anyway. So
and then killed him, and I was like, oh no, I'm good. I'm done.
Yeah, I took breaks after all those things. You know, it's one of those, like when it first started, the first several seasons, it was like every Sunday I'm there. You know, like
for
clockwork.
sure.
Yeah, but after those big things like that, it's just I had to get, you know, a year or two in between viewings to get a little palate cleanser. You know, so.
New Type said that even the Walking Dead comic lasted a bit long. I probably would agree. It did get repetitive, especially at the end, as they were constantly going from place to place to place. But it finally did end, and I like how it did wrap up. So overall, though, I enjoyed that story. I mean, it was a fun read each and every month it came out.
When his son Carl died, I stopped watching it. I don't even think I made it up to that.
Kat hated Carl anyway.
I hated Carl. I should have watched that scene because I hated him so much, but I didn't even watch the scene. Chevy is asking about the Marvel event. We're going to get to that. We're going to actually start with Substack, though, because Substack, if you're subscribed to any of the mailing lists, I'm subscribed to a few of them. I'm not paying for any of them, but I am subscribed to the mailing list. That Tuesday or Monday, yesterday, I got so many emails. I'm like, what is going on with Substack? And a lot of their first issues are coming out for free. I still want to wait until they're printed, so I didn't read any of them. I was like tempted to read the Kelly Thompson one, but I was like,
I scrolled through the Kelly Thompson one. Yeah, it was like Comic Day on Substack. It was they were all like SDOS, something like that. They were doing like this little mini event where they were all releasing stuff. So that's cool, you know, if you're following those. But yeah, I didn't read it.
The big announcement was we have a couple more creators, Grant Morrison, Tom King, and Brian K. Vaughan. Brian K. Vaughan really convinces me, but I'm not paying anything. I'm just like, I just subscribe to his newsletter. I'm like, whatever you can give me for free, I'll take, but I'm not going to pay anything until I could get it physically because I really just don't want it digitally. And if I'm going to get it digitally, I'd rather get it through Comixology than having it through a newsletter.
Yeah, like I said, when this all first started breaking, the one I was tempted was Scott Snyder because he was doing writing lessons and that kind of thing. So I thought that was more interesting than just that early access to a comic. But it's I mean, all these big names: Grant Morrison, Tom King, Brian K. Vaughan, Jim Bartel. There's just so many creators on that platform now.
Yeah, I think the one that surprised me the most was actually, I shouldn't have been surprised, but Tom King, because his kind of came out of nowhere. It's just like, here's this random comic I made. And we're like, okay, that's cool. It's just such a weird world we live in with comics where you have like the indie side where you have to plan so hard to hustle and do all that. But then there's kind of like this Frozen mentality, you know, Disney, they didn't really promote Frozen like at all. They didn't really even have a trailer when that came out. So I feel like they were doing that mentality where it's just like, here it is. And that's, or Beyonce really started it with her, what is it, the streaming service called? Whatever streaming service is called that she released like Lemonade all and then doesn't announce it. And then like now music, that's all they do. They don't announce their albums anymore. They just release them. And I think now comics are becoming that where they don't announce their comics anymore because the comic book store, you still need the FOC, but when you're not dealing with a comic book store, then you can announce it whenever you want.
Yeah, it's a weird model. It's such a niche market.
Mr. Robert Kirkman and just release like secret books.
Yeah, Kirkman did that through the store though, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, you know, that's when they released what Die.
Yeah,
but it didn't do as well though. I know. I'm guessing it did fine. Buying wise, but no one talks about it.
I think the first issue did really well. But I don't think the story did well. But I think if you were to somewhat do something like that, I think you can produce at least some element of surprise in the industry again. Now, that's where I think the industry lacks a little bit, you know.
We have a couple of questions here. So G Key Comics says, I know you're already sick of hearing about the book, but can I still get your views spec on the Black Panther issue 3, 1.25, 1 out of 5? One
It's
out
a
of 25.
1 in 25. What I don't even know what it is.
I'm guessing it's just.
Well, it's a
I don't know what it
variant, but
is.
it's a
Yeah.
variant, but I don't know what the deal is about it.
Let's see. Black Panther issue 3. 1 out of 25.
The Clark variant.
The Jamel Campbell is doing it, I guess. Is that even the right one? No, that's 2018.
Yeah, I'm trying to
oh yeah, no, it's selling for like $1,000 on eBay. Oh, I'm gonna screenshot it.
It's the one I'm looking at. There's one up there for $36 or $37.
This is
Yeah, that
$1,000, and it's the first app. Tazen. I don't know what any of this means.
Oh, there's a new character in the series. That's what I heard.
Okay.
I think
But
there's
why
a new.
But why the 1 out of 25 being so expensive?
Well, I don't know. That I don't know. I mean, a 1 in 25 usually goes for like $25, but I don't know why it would be $1,000. And Brant found one for 36.
Yeah, it's $36.99 on eBay.
Grab it.
Yeah, right. You might as well grab it. Gee whiz. But I think there's a new character in that series, a first appearance. So I think that's the spec on it.
It's so interesting. I wonder when that comes out. Oh, it did already come out.
I got a thing right here. It says it's an incentive variant that went nuclear, selling for almost $1,000 on eBay. I think this was the first YouTube channel that did not do a show about it. Talking about my channel. Yeah, I had no idea. Maybe you know why? Because I'm not a big Black Panther guy. So my eyes were not on that particular book. Like I didn't even get the regular cover of that book, you know?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, at least for me, when it comes to comics, like obviously A, story, that's what we talk about here, but B, I personally just like industry stuff more. Like the Substack things interests me so much more than like, oh, there's 1 out of 25 variants doing really well. Because I'm just not as, I don't want to say as informed about the spec issue, the collecting aspect / the spec aspect of comics. It's just not what I go for comics for, even though I know it's a very big part of comics.
Same. If I'm not gonna enjoy the story, I'm not gonna get it. Typically, in this issue, he's fighting the X-Men of Mars for some reason.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
That's all it says. Shuri discovers who's behind the attacks on Wakanda's secret agents. A revelation that will change everything. So there you go.
I'm always happy if comics are doing well. That's it. If there's more money going into comics, then great. Then keep it coming. We do have a question from New Type. With Tom King, does he get too much of a backlash? I mean, he wrote one bad crossover, Heroes in Crisis. Other writers have worse track records. I think for me, because again, everyone has personal preference. I think I really liked 2 stories from him. I really liked Mr. Miracle and I liked Vision. But he keeps telling the same story over and over again. So I think it was more like, I'm sure there are people that just read Heroes in Crisis that are pissed off because of that from Tom King. But it's more of that I want to see something different from him. And I feel like it's always just like some depressed hero doing depressive things. And that's why I can't get into his writing. I feel like it's very repetitive.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It's like Vision I absolutely loved. And then everything else I read after that. I mean, I liked Heroes in Crisis for the most part. I didn't like the way they did Wally, but overall I didn't mind the book itself. But
I think it started off pretty good.
Yeah. And then his Batman run, we've talked plenty about that.
Sure.
Run.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his Batman run started off really, really strong. And then I know I let you guys know when I started falling off with it was when Catwoman was writing love letters and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
for like 10 issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, where are we going with this? And then sure enough, like the marriage was supposed to happen and it didn't happen. And then it really stalled. And then people were just upset with the whole thing of what happened with Alfred and all that other nonsense. And just, yeah, man. I mean, people just.
I don't think Bane was built up enough. I thought like a lot of like, it just, it wasted pages for me. And again, that's just my personal preference. I'm not saying that's Bible or whatever, but
Then there was the other stuff, like on top of the love letters, there was the poetry, there was the children's book issues, there was all this weird stuff that was just like randomly, okay, let's see how weird we can get with the book, and it kind of fell flat.
I think after Batman, I have not read a Tom King issue of it.
I have.
Yeah, you read Batman and Catwoman, right?
Yeah, I read Batman Catwoman up until the last couple of issues, and I also started what was that? The one with the
Human Target?
well, I did try the first issue of that one, but the one before that,
Miracle Man?
Adam Strange.
Adam Strange. Yeah, that one.
I tried a couple issues of that one.
Yeah,
and
I read like 6 of them, 6 or 7 issues of that. Yeah, and it just I tried and tried and tried, and I could eventually lost
after
it.
Adam Strange. I feel like that was when I was like, I don't think I'm going to pick up the next Tom King comic.
Exactly.
But I didn't pick up. We've all read Superwoman though. I think we all read the first issue of Superwoman.
Yeah, and I only read Human Target because I really liked the TV show that they did several years ago. And that's the only reason I tried that one, but it was the same kind of thing. So,
we do have a question from Tevia. Do you think Bendis should go back to Marvel? No, I feel like the whole point of why he left Marvel,
he's done.
He said everything he needed to. I think he should do indies. I want to see him do more indies, and that's not me just saying like I don't want him to write superhero books. I just really think that is where his strive will be, is indies.
Let him do his thing. We had this comment here before about this. So Bleeding Cool wrote an article Friday morning claiming that the book is the next Ultimate Fallout issue 4, 1 in 25 and Sentinel variant. The Ultimate Fallout number 4, 1 in 25 goes for almost 30,000.
Oh my God.
I am serious. The only issue though with that is, okay, so Bleeding Cool likes to blow things up, and we all know that. And also, this book has been out for only a week. So Ultimate Fallout has been out for multiple years, and
it's Miles Morales.
Many years for Miles Morales to develop to the point of where he is today. So if I were, this is my opinion, and you guys can always do what you want, but I don't know if I would dive into this right now, spending $1,000 on a book that's been out for a week.
See, you know what I would do?
That's a big risk, in my opinion. You don't know how long this character is going to be.
You should buy the book like beforehand if you have it already and sell it now. Because look at the Punchline. Look at those Art Germ books. I'm sure they're not as much money as they were back then. Sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, now you could, if you got it for cover price and you want to sell it, now's the time, because you make definitely some decent profit off it. And then, if it does take off, then you're going to be like, well, coulda, shoulda, woulda, type of situation. But I don't know, man. That's a tough call. I mean, if you go back 5 years and now, that's when you're going to really know if that book pays off or not. But I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
I agree. We have a question from Sweet Exorcist, which I think I'm the only one who can answer this, but has anyone watched Naomi? I watched the first episode. I liked it. I mean, it's very CW, and I don't think it's as good as the comic, but I enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised by it because I thought the trailer did not look very good. And I thought the show was better than the trailer, and at least felt a little different from the other shows. All right, let's get into our next topic, which is Iron Man proposes to Hellcat. This almost was a topic. None of us are reading Iron Man. I really hate the idea that they put them together. If I'm being honest, I really like the idea of them being friends, because you also know it's going to be written out. By the next run, they're not going to be together, and they're just going to bring Pepper back. So what's the point?
I actually was still reading Iron Man.
Were you really?
Yeah, I had fallen behind a couple issues, but I was still getting it. So I just, because of this story, I went ahead and caught up this week. I read 3 issues back to back. And after the last issue that came out last week that I read, I'm done. I'm so done. And I should have been done.
So bad.
I know. I was trying to ride it through the Korvac thing and get on the other side of it, and it was not worth doing that, and I regret it. But so it's weird. I don't know how. Like, we're at issue 16, and this is happening in issue 20, I believe, where he proposes. I don't know how we get from where we're at right now to that. It's a huge leap right now.
They've had a one night stand. That's all I remember. I don't think they've done anything else besides that.
Right now in this issue, spoiler alert, but in this issue, Hellcat goes to Doctor Doom for help to take down Iron Man. So I don't know how you get from that to let's get married in 4 issues. It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, I was disappointed with it. The problem is this particular story has taken way too long to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 issues.
This is it doesn't need to be this long. And if you're not interested in the story that a particular writer has to tell with these long drawn out story arcs, then the title is going to suffer. That's the problem when you get a particular writer that says, I'm going to write one story on my run and that's it. That's like with Nick Spencer's situation, with the whole Kindred storyline. The only thing I can say with what Nick Spencer did is he sprinkled in other little stories, around it. So it kind of tried to keep it interesting, right? But this has been Korvac the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And
until this issue.
He's less interesting than Kindred, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. This issue was all about, just to give you guys, I want you to share my pain. So this issue, Iron Man has the power cosmic now. So he comes back to Earth and he's like a giant and he's like transmogrified into this weird metal being. And he's like, my gift to everyone in the city is you are all now as smart as me. And so now it shifts to like this mechanic deciding, oh, well, I can fix your car by throwing out all the fuel lines and putting a hydro engine in it. And this married couple are like, I value your existence in this marriage. And it was weird stuff like that all throughout the issue. And then also you had Hellcat going from plainclothes to costume to plainclothes to costume in the middle of New York City, 2 pages at a time. And I don't know how she kept changing back and forth or why. But yeah, it was not good.
Does Cafu still do the art for that book, or is it someone else?
I don't remember. It's still the same style of art. I don't remember if Cafu's doing it or not.
Because at least good art, right? Yeah, I think the reason is just Iron Man needed a push for sales, and they're like, why not do this? Because people are reading Iron Man right now.
Here's a question here, and we all talked about this, and it said, hey, Kat, did you read Reign issue 1? I needed a trusted opinion before I read it. And I mean, we all read it and we all really enjoyed it. And if you like Joe Hill and you like a horror type of book, but it has good characters in the book, the way the characters were introduced and what happened. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite book of this year thus far, like by far. It's a really good book. What are you gonna say, Brent?
No, I was going to agree with Mike. Yeah, we all ranked it high that week and had a really long discussion about it. So we definitely recommend that book. No, Cafu is not doing the art. It's Julius Ota, I think is.
Oh, I know. Okay, they've worked for like Dynamite and stuff. They have a good style.
Yeah, and Serenity said something about these magical Hellcat powers, but they never explain that in the issue. It's just one page she's in plain clothes, the next page she's in costume, next page she's in plain clothes, and it's just like, okay, sure.
New Type JB Lee says, I mean, I always ship Iron Man and Janet. I didn't like them either. I just like Pepper and Iron Man. I know it's the classic, but I will say I like Janet and Iron Man more than I like Patsy and Iron Man.
I don't know, but for him to ask her to marry I think it's
not a build up.
It's too soon. Like, if there's only how many issues have come out with this?
20 something.
It'll be 20. Yeah, I think
so.
It's
20
16
issues,
right now.
And this doesn't take place in real life. So, like, how long have they been seeing each other for in this?
Right, weeks.
Are they? They're like hardly even seeing each other. Like the last time I read this book, they literally weren't even in the same plane. They were just
they were off world.
Yeah, that was until this issue.
Yeah.
Until this issue, he was off in space and she was on Earth, and there's also a bunch of continuity problems. Like Thor showed up and he didn't have a beard and he was just fine, and yet they referenced Beyond and why Scarlet Spider wasn't there. So
interesting.
Is he still stuck in his suit or whatever because he was recovering from his injuries?
Well, he's got the power cosmic now, so he is his suit.
Oh. This is ridiculous. Where has this character gone, man? That's just dumb.
They can't hit the nail on the head with him, sadly, for a while. Well, let's get into our last news story here, which is Eternals vs. X-Men is going to be the summer event for Marvel. And I'm not really reading X-Men. I do not read Eternals, so I think this will be a skip for me.
I mean,
it's the summer event. It's a summer event. So it's
now do the fall event.
Get your popcorn. This is like, supposedly the big action event of the year. And it's the X-Men, it's the Eternals, and the Avengers are caught in the middle of it. And I don't know. I'll give it a try. It looked kind of cool. The cover looked cool. It might be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give it a try. Like I said, I am still reading X-Men, and I've never been a fan of the Eternals.
I know.
It's just like, and from what I understand, it's like the mutants have to be, vanquished by the Eternals, and that's kind of where this story is coming from. The Judgment Day,
something
and it's
like that,
okay,
yeah.
So somebody else coming after the mutants again. Okay, we've never seen that before.
Who knows? Who cares? I'll check it out.
I'll check it out. I'll definitely try it.
It's always one of those ones that it was like, remember Avengers versus X-Men? Like that. I like that. That was fun for me. I didn't take it too seriously.
Didn't John Romita Jr. do the art for that event, or at least
did he really?
It? I think so.
I
don't think for every issue. I don't think he did for that, because I remember there were some that were. I think some of the art was okay, and some of it, I don't know.
I remember not liking that event too much, but now looking back at the events we get, I'm like, it was whatever. It wasn't as bad as some of the events we have now. I'm not an event girl, as you guys know. So
he was
like Original Sin.
I did like Original Sin. Oh no, I didn't like Original Sin. I
liked
Silk. I enjoyed some of the side stories. So we got Silk out of Original Sin, which is still interesting.
You liked War of the Realms. That's the one you liked.
War of the Realms. I love.
Did you like Black Vortex too?
Love Black Vortex.
Black Vortex was good. That was
King in Black was solid. I thought that wasn't that bad. I like the ones that are connected to like the main titles more and actually like affects the Marvel universe, like War of the Realms.
That's how, and that's how an event should be. Kind of like what Devil's Reign is kind of going through right now.
I feel like it does and doesn't though, because there's some parts I'm like Iron Man. We get a note here that happens something with Iron Man here, and like, oh well, is it really affecting the rest of the Marvel universe? It feels like it's trying, but it doesn't really feel like an event because it's not really affecting the other titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah, the Iron Man situation in Devil's Reign was kind of. I was like, wait, how did Chameleon?
Right.
I was lost. I kind of got confused there.
Yeah, and they also have Ben Reilly in there. It's like none of that happened in Spider-Man.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, it feels like its own thing, and it's just like, and also Daredevil's not really in it that much for a book that has to do with his title. I feel like it's not really affecting him that much. Besides, obviously, the ending. The ending will. But, it's I didn't love this issue as much.
Though, that's for sure.
Yeah, a person who almost got a book that tied into this and then for some reason got canceled. Right. Which is like, out of any of these characters, he should be the one with the tie-in.
So do you think, crazy. Like, I know we're talking about this, but do you think, like, Chameleon was Iron Man this entire time in the book?
I don't know. It's so hard to tell.
Yeah,
because you can't tell because we saw Tony, but that could have been Chameleon, and if he's flying around in the armor,
it's hard because continuity is all over the place in Marvel. And it's like what is taking place when and where? Who's I don't know.
Right.
I'm so confused.
That's definitely the most frustrating part of it all, which is disappointing because you want your comics to connect a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so we kind of talked. We'll talk more about Devil's Reign when we talk about comics, but we are going to talk about Saga because that is our main topic. So we're going to talk about the Saga comic, and then we'll go into the main books. But yeah, Saga returns after 3 years, and I know that Brant is going to catch up with the book. So I really liked it. I was like, damn, how can you come back after 3 years and like still be good? And they just changed enough. They gave a really good character moments and they just sang the song of everything you love about Saga in one issue. You're like, okay, Saga's back. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I loved all the characters in the book. I loved Allana, right? That's her name.
Yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah.
so I was like,
Yeah,
Allana, is that
Allana.
correct?
And then there's Hazel, right? I think that's her name. And then you got the guy that was posing as the husband, Bonzino, I think his name was. And just seeing the reintroduction of all these characters was really cool. Even Prince of the Robots, Force, the child was pretty cool to see, what he's gone through and how he's working with
And he's
somebody.
the brother now. Oh,
Yeah,
you mean
he's the brother.
the what's his name? Squire. Little
Squire. Yeah, little Squire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just all those reintroduction of the characters, I think they did a great job at kind of getting you back into it a little bit, and it had that very familiar feel and tone that you were used to reading when you first started reading it. It didn't miss a beat, and I love the narration from Hazel as well, and just where Allana is at this point in her life as they are now drug dealers basically to try to get by. It's great, man. And I will love to see the backstory here of what happened in the 3 years, because that you're going to get some of that. And I loved how also that we got the reintroduction of the Will, Lion Cat, and Gwendolyn. And then the Will has the skull of Marko. So
That was
I
striking. Yeah.
was like, oh man, I didn't see that coming as well. But this book was great, and if you did read this before, again, it's going to feel very familiar with what you read. And if you haven't read it and you're looking to read something different, check this out. This is a really good book. It really is.
It's $2.99 too, so
Yeah,
it's very cheap
for 44 pages on this reintroduction to this series.
and it's also new reader friendly. If I'm being honest, like I feel like it really tried to be like, hey, if you've never read Saga before, you could jump into this issue and like go back and read it. Like I think they actually did a pretty good job at explaining things.
Oh yeah, I agree. I just hope, like I said, that they do go back and they go into that 3-year history of what they've been up to and how they met this other guy, like this Bambizo guy, whatever his name is. Like I can't say his name right, And she took it very offensive. She's like, "Don't ever call me, your wife ever, that I'm your wife ever again." Like she was freaking pissed.
Yeah, no, it was a good issue. I'm so excited for this book to be back and go check it out. So before we get into the main books, I do want to mention I have a Kickstarter, so I'm going to quickly screen share that. So it's for the Dancer issue 2. We're going to get that. That's Dancer issue 1. We're going to get to the Dancer issue 2, which you can get issue 1 with the Kickstarter, but it's about a dancer / assassin who witnessed her parents dying as a child and is now forced to deal with that trauma. So it's like if Batman actually dealt with this trauma. So yeah, hopefully you guys could go check it out. We have a lot of covers. We have trading cards. Here's some art from the book. And yeah, hopefully, like I said, go check out the Kickstarter. We have 22 days left, and there's a way to catch up, get my other books as well. And we'll now go into the big books.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the comic books. So again, just want to give another shout out to all the viewers out there. Welcome back. And I'm going to remind everybody in 1 hour, it's my birthday. So just letting you know that you guys are celebrating my birthday with all, with me and the rest of the crew here. So let's talk about these books. We got the spoiler alert coming out, and we already talked about Saga issue 55. So you were spoiled there if you didn't read it, but definitely check it out. So next, it looks like Brant and I are going to talk about the Death of Wolverine issue 1. And I must say that I actually enjoyed this book.
I did too. And it was interesting because it followed right off the stuff that was happening with Moira.
Right.
From whatever that was. Yeah, Inferno. And so, yeah, that was cool. I wasn't expecting it to follow that storyline. I was like, okay, how is this going to connect to the Lives of Wolverine thing? But yeah, it took us on a ride with that, and her like going through the gate and ending up back in was it Scotland?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like making her way you would have liked a part of this, Cat, because Jane Foster was there taking care of her. And
nice.
Yeah, and as Valkyrie, she was fighting off Mystique to let Moira escape. So that was kind of cool little scene.
Yeah. So, and Moira has lung cancer.
Yeah. So that's where
she lost her resurrection power because they casted some kind of like Krakoan spell or whatever it is.
She's lived enough. She can't
resurrect anymore, and now she's developed cancer. And so obviously she only has so much time to live, and she's trying to figure out how to survive. So Mystique is after her. The CIA is after her. The FBI is after her. So she's just this wanted person right now. And it was pretty cool. The one thing I didn't get, though, is what's with the huge Omega Wolverine?
I don't
get that.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Like, there was one scene earlier in the issue where Black Tom was like, something's wrong with the bed. Something came out, and then he got clawed. And my thought initially was, oh, is this tying into the Sabretooth comic? But then we saw the Wolverine thing, and it's like, where did that come from? What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost in all that. So I wasn't really sure. That's kind of why like this book did not make my top 5, but all the other stuff around it was actually really good, and it definitely exceeded my expectations on this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Yeah, and the
art was pretty too. It was really
it was really nice art, and I enjoyed them continuing that story. I thought we weren't going to see Moira for a while. I thought they were just going to let that go. So I'm kind of glad they didn't.
They didn't just drop her off.
Right.
Okay, cool. So next we're going to move on and talk about Superman and Robin special. So I bought this because I was like, I was kind of like, why not? And this is a book where you couldn't take too seriously. And if you enjoyed Damian and John together, this is kind of what you got. It reminded me of an annual. I thought it was a little pricey for what you got in it. But it was just a story that was there, and it was kind of underwhelming for me.
I thought it was very underwhelming. I think it was, and obviously this is the writer who created Super Sons, but it felt like a Super Sons story. Yeah, and I thought there was so much more to do here. There's so much more to talk about between these two friends. Damian's going through so much. John is going through so much, and they just decided not to have really a story, and it's just them fighting people, and they're like, two guys having fun fighting things, and I was like,
it was literally them trying to get this creature back to its own environment. That's basically all it was. And there was a couple moments in there, but nothing like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird. It didn't have the maturity of the stuff that we see in the other books, and it didn't have the comedic timing of the Super Sons book. So it was like somewhere in the middle, and just everything fell a little flat, unfortunately.
So I think Tomasi struggled with that.
Yeah.
So where he I feel like maybe in his wheelhouse, he knew how to write a younger John with a younger Damian and them interacting with each other instead of a much older John who is 18, because it's mentioned in that book.
Yeah.
Now he's 18 years old. I thought he was like 16, but now he's 18. So I guess he's legally an adult now. And Damian is not that old though, right? Isn't Damian like 15?
I thought he was like,
14 or 15. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, but very underwhelming book. I was kind of disappointed by it. I expected something more. And originally I wasn't going to pick this up, but then I was like, you know what? Maybe I will pick this up. And then I wind up reading it. I'm like, really? God dang. I'm like, this is rough.
Yeah, I was definitely disappointed. I thought this was going to be so much bigger than it was.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the Super Sons books, and so this was hugely disappointing to me. I was very sad.
All right, well then let's move on and let's talk about our number 5 book. So, Kat, what was your 5th ranked book this week?
Mine was Wonder Girl. Not the finale I was totally expecting, but I had fun with it. I kind of wished more of the other Wonder Girls were involved. I'm guessing they're saving that for the next event, but I thought it was a passable ending to an arc, not an ending to a series. But the art was good, and it was okay.
That's what it was, though. It was an ending for an arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But at least we got some kind of ending. There was a small amount of closure, which I'm at least thankful for that. This was my number 6, so it just fell short. But yeah, it was solid. It just it wasn't the place to end it.
It sucks because it wasn't on the creative team on this regard. So
yeah,
this was not a bad comic, but this was much lower on my list compared to some of the other books that I read, just because I for me, it felt like it was a rushed ending. And then I found myself wondering, I'm like, where are all the other Wonder Girls in here? You know, they were in a couple of scenes and they made this big thing, this big buildup with them in there. Yeah. And it just kind of, like they said, it was an abrupt ending, you know? I mean, it felt like it was an end to a story, you know, it was just the end to an arc. And I was disappointed by that. Jolene Jones does not do the artwork in this issue. She's
Oh, she didn't?
No, it was.
It looks like her style a lot.
She did not do this one and the last one either.
I forget who it was, but yeah.
Oh shit! I put that book away already, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm so curious who it was. Whoever it was copied her style very well.
It was still a good artist. It was
Layla.
Yeah, go ahead. It was Layla Del Duca who did our friend Clay Adams' Deadskins book. That's the artist for that book.
I knew I've seen that name from somewhere.
Yeah, and there was an Image book. What was it called? Like Shutter or something like
Shutter.
Yeah, I think she did that one. So
that's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I thought like it was good, but there was definitely parts where I was like, "Oh, that looks like a little rushed," and I thought it was just Joelle Jones rushing the pages.
Just like it's similar art, but it's not as crisp or clean. Mm-hmm. And obviously, what kind of throws it off is the coloring. The coloring is obviously the same, so you might tend to overlook it, you know. But if you pay attention closely, you notice that the artwork is different in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right. So, Brant, what was your number 5?
Mine was actually X Deaths of Wolverine. Yeah.
Oh, the book we already talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 5 was Stray Dogs issue 2, or Dog Days. Stray Dogs Dog Days issue 2.
Right.
Just because I love dogs, and again, this just kind of goes more into depth about the master, the owner of all those dogs, and just what he did, and I guess to like what he was going to do, like all the planning and process of how all these dogs got kidnapped. It was like these little prequel stories with every single dog, and it was pretty interesting, man. And there's some tear jerkers in this particular issue, you know, so I liked it. It's the last one. I don't know if we'll see Stray Dogs ever again. Who knows?
I'm sure sure it's popular enough that they're like, oh man, we gotta make a sequel.
I mean, this was kind of that. Well, this was the prequel, I guess, if you want to say that, because again, this was a story that, were before all the dogs got kidnapped or whatever it was. But it just really showed you like how, I guess, messed up the master was, like how he always would stalk the females and kidnap their dogs. Like that was his thing. And he would not go after men that had dogs because he was a freaking coward. It was crazy,
Yeah. It was a good book, and the Sophie stories in particular, which was our main character going into the main series.
Yeah.
That was her story when she was learning all that. It's like, yeah, he doesn't let us play with the dogs that have mans. Only the ones that just have a woman. Yeah. It was a little creepy.
Absolutely. He is. That guy was a creep show, man.
Yeah.
But overall, great book, great creativity. I would have never thought that book would take off as much as it did. So great stuff there.
We do have a question from New Type JB. Do you want Alfred's death to actually stick? Because I know DC inevitably will resurrect him. I feel like he already has been, but it's like for that death metal stuff.
He's alive in very many other books, right?
Yeah.
Because we do so many Batman books, and I don't think DC has probably very many top-selling books besides Batman. You could probably look that up and find that for sure, because they don't have that many comic books,
Dark Knights of Steel is probably the only one, and that's already
that's
kind of a Batman book.
You can say that's a Batman book too, because it's.
I mean, the title alone, Dark Knights.
Yeah. So and it's got Batman, who is like got Superman's powers. So it's like you got to think that he's the main character in that.
I like to think it's a DC book only because I just want a book that's not a Batman book, but I do think it actually is a Batman book.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about it, Alfred's death should stick. Yeah, I actually think the story has been interesting with him dead, and I still think there is more story to tell there. I don't want to see a revival story just yet.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, he's gonna come back eventually, and it doesn't feel like he's really dead anyway. Because, like we said, there's so much Batman, and he's alive in those other universe books or those alternate stories. So I don't know whether he comes back or not. It doesn't matter to me, really, honestly.
I agree.
All right. So let's talk about Devil's Reign issue 3. I mean, I know we talked about it already quite a bit, but what did you guys think of this issue? I thought it was good, but there's a lot of moving pieces in this.
I thought it was too many. Yeah. It's too cluttered. There's not enough Daredevil. I was like, whoa! It felt like nothing was happening, but a lot of things are happening at the same time. Least favorite issue of this series thus far for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. There was so much going on that at times it was a little hard to follow. It actually did make my top 5 just by process of elimination, but I don't know. It didn't excite me like that first issue did, right? So I didn't know how to feel about this one. But go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. So when you look at it, I'll see if I can justify everything that was going on. So when you look at everything that was going on, first of all, you got Dr. Octopus in there who is trying to get all his alternate versions out there. And it looks like he's trying to overthrow Mayor Fisk, right?
But again, does not connect what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man right now. So it just goes back to like, this is not connected to anything.
Right. And then you have Luke Cage, who's trying to overthrow Mayor Fisk by becoming a mayor. Right. And then you got,
which I do think is interesting.
Right. And then you got Kingpin, who is manipulating everybody to vote for him by using the Purple Man, right, to persuade. And now we're finding out that the people that is messed with the Kingpin's mind is the Purple Man's kids that kind of cluttered his mind on who Matt Murdock is. Right. And then you got, what else? Then you got the whole Avengers flying around, and who were they fighting? I don't even remember.
Oh God, that's the
I
issue.
think they were fighting cluttered. Doc Ock's.
They were fighting his people.
Right.
And then that's when we found out that Iron Man was really the chameleon.
Chameleon, yeah.
And why is he in this book? Like, why was he like posing as Tony Stark, and that's why he wanted to run for president? Or I mean, for mayor originally, and maybe the plan backfired. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know why Chameleon is in here.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he was a Kingpin plant.
I could have been. I think that's something that could be. I guess we'll find out in these next couple issues. But I was most interested in like them maybe killing off Foggy. Like, what? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Also, Foggy's hardly been used in the past year or so.
I forgot about
Daredevil's.
that.
That happened in the end.
That's how it closed, right? Yeah.
That's how it closed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, see, Foggy was the representative of Luke Cage and the superheroes. So those people, whoever tried to kill him or badly hurt him, are obviously representatives of the Kingpin or somebody, obviously.
I'm pretty sure it was Wesley. I think it was Kingpin's right-hand man that did the deed, I think, if I'm remembering right.
There's so much that happened in that issue. So that's why it was hard to remember everything, you know?
Yeah. And I also read like the Winter Soldier tie-in to this.
I heard that one was good.
It was good because he was trying to get a file, like he's trying to remember, you know, who he is and all the stuff that he did when he was Winter Soldier, and he finds out like there's this big conspiracy that he was groomed before he was even Bucky, and by the same force that made him the Winter Soldier, which I thought was really interesting. But he had to break into the Kingpin's house to get it, and they kind of reference that in this, that his house is compromised and all that. And Kingpin beat the crap out of him because he was sleepwalking, and he was like, "I need to know who he is." He was talking about Daredevil, but he like beat the crap out of him and killed everybody, all his guards and stuff. It was weird, but it was good. But it was So I don't know.
We do have the question from Eduardo, or Edward, sorry. What's the difference between Devil's Reign and Dark Reign? Honestly, they just utilized the name. And it's just like they just knew that people liked Dark Reign, and they're like, let's just utilize it.
Dark Reign, though, was a much different event, though. Like,
it was, but elements are similar. Like Norman Osborn was in the place of Kingpin here. Yeah,
right.
I know everyone's talked about it before, but I really don't love how Marvel recycled events. And it's happened so often now, and maybe that's why I haven't been able to get into this event as much, because you could kind of tell it's just an event to be an event, and not that it was actually needed, like a War of the Realms or even a King in Black. This just feels like, I guess it's there.
I mean, when you look at it, events don't need to happen at all, period.
For sure. But they're nice when they actually connects. Like, it's that's the point of the event.
I think if it's something that builds and leads into something, obviously those make the best events. Like when you see this slow build happen. So for instance, like I'll use Donny Cates's King in Black, for example. That was a run that built into this major event. Like it took issues and issues and issues and issues to get to that point. We had the Absolute Carnage that was a kind of a lead-in into King in Black, but that was like the precursor to what was coming out. But that, I mean, kind of like that. That's how I like to see my event happen, you know, as a build-up. And I guess you can say the same thing about Devil's Reign, but it kind of came out. It was just like all of a sudden they're like, well, let's do Devil's Reign, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it built up in Daredevil, but it didn't build up anywhere else. And that's
not
kind of
doing anything for Matt, and it's not doing anything for Elektra. So that's for King in Black, it had a lot to do with Eddie. It had to do with his personal journey. So that's why it's so weird that they're not the main characters of their own event.
Right, and even going back to that comparison with Dark Reign, like Dark Reign was like tied heavily into Civil War and all that stuff that was going on, and it had implications toward, you know, on the entire Avengers and you know, spiraling out from that to all these other characters. And Ragnarok and Thor and that whole thing. And this is just it's very contained within Daredevil, and you know, once this series Devil's Reign is over, all those books aren't even going to reference that because they're
No.
not referencing it now. The only thing they're referencing is Kingpin's mayor. But aside from that, nothing else that happens to these characters within this book is happening to them outside this book.
It's definitely frustrating.
Yeah.
We do have a $10 super chat by New Type JB. Thank you so much. I feel deaths of civilian supporting characters should stick. For all the Clone Saga's flaws, the issue with Aunt May's death is a classic. Or are you talking about One More Day? Clone Saga.
Well, Aunt May died in issue 400.
Issue 400.
Oh, you're right. But it didn't. She wasn't. I don't remember. It's been such a long time since I've read it.
She stayed dead for a while. What?
I don't remember when she came back.
I don't remember when she came back, but I know that's what brought Ben back, right? Like, he came back and, had to suffer that loss with Peter. From what I remember, it's been a long time. I remember
it's literally been like 15 years since I've read the Clone Saga.
Yeah, I remember.
Tell you this, I think Aunt May should die again.
I remember the cover of that. I still have it. It's like a cutout tombstone.
Yeah, it's the worst cover ever. I hate that cover. Like, you had issue 300 as your milestone cover last time, and then 100 issues later, you got that. Like, you can't even make it out. It's so bad.
That's horrible. I'm looking at it now. I remember the one where it actually had his thing. I'm looking at ones that are so faded out now that you can't even see him anymore. But yeah, that's I forgot what the original question was. Should civilian supporting characters should stick? I think many deaths should stick. I get like kill him off Wolverine. You can't kill him off for 5 years, and don't kill him off at all. Like, I think they should stick for a little while, at least I would say at least like 3 to 5 years, in my opinion.
And that's why what a lot of people are turned off with X-Men about, because of the resurrection protocols. For years and years, you did not see any X-Men die. What did you see? You saw Jean Grey, right? And back in the day, and then you saw the whole Phoenix thing happen, and that was a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, in the most recent issues of X-Men, you got to see Cyclops die, and he comes back within the same issue, and it's not even it's not even a big deal. Like, who cares, And they didn't die for years and eons, and now all of a sudden they die every day. And it's just like, oh, we'll bring them back. So that's why, at least death especially in the X-Men universe, it's like, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
I know it's a little sidetrack, but that's the main thing that bothers me about the resurrection stuff. Like, if they didn't just constantly die, I would feel okay with it, because just because you can come back doesn't mean your survival instinct, it doesn't kick in anymore. It's like, okay, well, I can just do anything because I can come back. No, we're, by nature, we're survivors. We're not going to just be like, okay, I can take that, I can be sliced in half because tomorrow I'll be back. No, that's not how our brains work.
Well, Tevye asked a question of, do you think Ben Reilly should stay dead? Yeah, I think the whole point is that they don't know what the hell to do with Ben Reilly. So yes, I think he should have stayed dead.
Yeah, at this point, they shouldn't have brought him back multiple times over and over again and try to do something different with him if it wasn't going to work. I think death needs to mean something for these characters to continue to mean something. Yes, it's comics. They're going to eventually come back. But like Alfred, right now, at the very least, keep them dead for a while.
He's been dead for a while. Even if he came back, let's say next month, I would be like, oh, that was actually a while. Like, people, there was actual stories about him being mourned. So I guess I'm okay with that.
Right. Yeah. If you get that impact and then you wait long enough to where it's a celebration, it's a milestone, it's this huge thing when they do come back, then it works. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's pointless.
My issue is that when a character dies and they tell other stories with that character in it, then it's like we talked about earlier. He's never truly missed, right? It's same thing that happened with the death of Wolverine, because he had Old Man Logan series come out. Even though he's not the same Logan, he's Old Man Logan. He still hasn't truly disappeared because he's still in another comic book.
Right.
It just would make sense if they just sat there and said, you know what? Let's respect that Alfred is dead and not show him in other books. I mean, I get it that they're alternate universe books and, they may not work with Alfred not being in them, but I don't know. I guess that's the problem you have when your whole company relies on Batman for your sales.
Yeah. I mean, even in Robin, as good as that book is, we still see Alfred pop up occasionally in Damien's subconscious,
Yeah.
So you're still not missing him because you're still getting him right there and you're getting his advice.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
We have one more question, then we'll get to our next book. Should Peter Parker Spider-Man get killed off for Miles Morales Spider-Man be relevant? I think that's such an insult to Miles Morales. I think he's already extremely relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is what happened in the Ultimate Universe, though, right? Like Peter died and Miles took the mantle, and that made him relevant right there. Mm-hmm. So he's already established. He doesn't need to be reestablished.
People outside of comics know who Miles Morales is and loves him. Yeah. I think he's already relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that in the comics right now, there needs to be somebody that knows how to write him.
Exactly. Yeah, and that has nothing to do with Peter dying. It just has to do with getting the right writer on the book.
Right. And making his book impactful for readers, like give it a purpose. But he's a very relevant character in today's world for sure. I mean, he's well known from the movies and everything else. So, Tevi, then he goes, but Marvel has no idea what to do with Miles Morales.
They don't.
That's a different story.
Yeah. That's a different thing. It doesn't mean that he's irrelevant, though. That's a totally different thing. All right, let's move forward. Let's talk about where are we at? Number 4?
Number 4, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I'll start this time. My number 4 was actually Thor issue 21. I enjoyed this book. I loved seeing Thor get.
Mine was Thor as well.
Was it?
I'll add. Yeah, mine was also Thor.
I love seeing Thor kind of just. You want to talk about a character that is like, we talk about it all the time. There's nothing at stake. Well, everything was at stake for Thor here, mm-hmm. And being that he lost his hammer and he's trying to do whatever he can to, get the hammer back and it's going against him. He doesn't know what to do, and then his father gets paralyzed in the battle as well. He loses his arm, like he breaks his arm. It just so much happened in this book. And then when you found out who it was at the end, you're just kind of like, or who the hammer has merged with at the end, you're kind of like, oh shit, man. Like, yeah, that's intense, it just shows you that Thor has basically lost everything at this point.
Well, and I think with this issue, what I enjoyed most, and you could compare it to the Superman Robin issue where, okay, that was just an action issue. But what makes a good action issue? Because it's comics. Of course, we love action issues.
Yeah.
Thor's a good example of making a good action issue because really it was just an action issue. It's just like, oh, let's fight, between his hammer and between him. But everything was emotionally charged. Everything had to do with Thor's character to make it good action. And that's why this was a superior issue for me personally.
You felt his pain throughout the entire time.
Yeah, and it's a character like Thor who's godlike being has, he's the heavy hitter the Avengers call him when they can't handle situations. Like, okay, call Thor. And you have him fighting from underneath the entire time. I mean, that alone is a story worth telling. When you have a character like Thor that is on the losing end of a battle.
You don't see that.
No, not at all. And not only a losing end, like you said, his arm is shattered, his dad paralyzed, everything, he's losing everything in this battle. And then like you said, you find out who it is that's behind all this. And it's like, man, this is just so intense from cover to cover, action or not. It's just, like you said, Kat, the emotional aspect of this is just all over the place. And yeah, it was a really strong issue.
Yeah,
we do have a new commenter, I think. Tabletop Geek says, but what do you consider a first appearance? LOL. I would say if they speak. That's my thing for more than 2 pages.
That's your good. I mean,
Yeah, that's my consideration.
My first appearance is obviously if they show up in a panel.
Yeah,
right?
first full appearance. Like there's cameo, there's first full appearance.
Right.
A first full appearance is the entire book. A full appearance is when they're in the entire book. A cameo is like when they're in a panel. That, I don't consider, I know some people have been talking about, well, what do you consider first appearance? Do you consider like a preview of a character as a first appearance? No, I definitely don't.
It's got to be an issue.
Yeah, it's got to be a story about, there's got to be, the character's got to be in there and the story's got to be about them.
So do you think that the Captain Marvel issue where Miss Marvel was like putting something on the chalkboard or whatever it was, the pin board, was her first appearance? Or you think Miss Marvel issue 1 was her first appearance?
I would say that if you saw her, that would be a cameo appearance.
Yeah.
That's a cameo. Right.
And would you consider a cameo appearance a first appearance?
What's that?
Would you consider a cameo appearance a first appearance? If you don't put any words.
No, because that's why they give it a cameo. That's why they tell you it's a cameo. Full appearance is the characters in the book for the first full appearance. I guess if you see the first full picture of the character, I think that's the full appearance. Right.
I don't remember what they showed of her in that. I feel like it was just her back.
Because it's like when you look at Venom in issues 298, I think it was. I think you see like
or 298,
his hand or something like that.
Right.
I think that's like a cameo.
Right.
And then it wasn't until issue 300 to where he makes the first full appearance. So that's when you first see the entire character. So that's what's considered full appearance.
Yeah.
Full character. So I guess that's full. Let's see. Eduardo goes full appearance in the last panel of the book. So we talked about Venom there.
That's a toughie. Yeah, that's a toughie on that. And then also Tabletop says, to me, I feel like everyone looks at it too hard as far as the technicality of it. First appearance, you see them once and boom, appearance. Look, you can just make money on many issues. I think that's the point, right? Just make your money on 3 issues instead of 1.
I know they talk about that whole situation with like Wolverine's first appearance. There was a big debate for the longest time, like 180 or 181. So I know there was a big debate about that. But supposedly 181, I think, is the first appearance of Wolverine, like that first full appearance. So I don't know. I guess that's the money. That's the money book right there. All right. Any other questions? That's it for now.
I think that's it.
All right. So we'll go with Brant. What was your number 4 then?
Devil's Reign.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So now we're going to talk about. I'm going to skip Mary Jane right now, and we're going to talk about Detective Comics issue 1050. So, what'd you think about this issue, Brant?
Not as good.
Didn't
honestly.
like this one as much?
Yeah, I didn't like this one as much. I don't know why. It lost a step for me, this one. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, go ahead.
So Helena it winds up checking in. You get to see why she is in the hospital to begin with. So because she's literally going psycho from everything that happened with Vile.
Yeah, so it was kind of a recap of all the Vile stuff and her and Nightwing kind of trying to deal with that, right?
Right. And then you wind up seeing that a couple people lost it in there. And then there was a big cover up because it happened on day 15. And then you wind up finding out that the person I think that's making everyone stay calm is Psycho Pirate shows up at the end of the issue. So you got to see the reveal of now how everything is truly working.
That was the best part of the issue. It's like, oh, okay, Psycho Pirate. That's kind of cool.
Like makes sense now.
Yeah, that made sense, and it was fine. And it's a whole scam just to get some money and all that. But I guess like the last issue, it was more about the Bat family
investigation thing. Yeah,
right, exactly. So this issue is just I don't know, it was kind of boring. And
Yeah, it
then you
wasn't
had
that intense with like the Bat family in there.
and then there was backup stories in this too, right? And
I don't read the backup story.
yeah, they weren't great. So I think that kind of soured me on the issue overall too.
Right,
So
absolutely.
We're only reading the Gotham Girl backup story. That's it. I
Yeah,
might get that book just to read up the backup story and not read the
No,
book.
that's that.
I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
All right, so let's talk about a good book here. Let's talk about
Oof.
Mary Jane and Black Cat.
I also heard this sold very well, so now I'm curious: are they
Oh,
gonna
awesome.
make like a mini series?
I can obviously
Hope so.
honestly I can see that this sold really well because obviously first is the cover.
Oh yeah, it's Scott Campbell, right?
Yeah, you got J. Scott Campbell doing the cover. Plus, there was a ton of other variant covers out there
that sold very well.
Yeah, but the book itself was so good, man. I loved this book.
It was really
miss
good.
This Spider-Man. I miss this so much. It just, you knew that they could interact really well, but I didn't know how magical it would be. First of all, it's just good action issue. So you get like Mary Jane doing some action stuff and Black Cat. But then that ending with the bad girl conversation, I was like, oh, cherry on top.
Yeah.
Great book. Loved it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many good moments in this book. You know, Mary Jane beating the Shocker with a bat. You know, stuff like that. Just and what's his name? Count, whatever his name is, going starstruck over Mary Jane, and it's just so much good stuff in this issue.
Yeah, the ending is what made it for me. I wasn't so into the whole the Red Hood thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
that was a weird connection.
I was like, okay, I mean, like, I get it. It's a comic, but, you know, some guy pointing a gun at the dude's freaking head the whole time. Like, I don't know. But it was just weird. But nevertheless, the interactions with, again, Black Cat, Mary Jane is what sold the issue for me. And I loved it from the opening page. Like, she's prancing through the freaking hospital. And if you looked at the artwork, like, everyone's
checking her out.
Yeah, I love that. I so love that. And
that almost made my panels this week. I was like, oh
great.
man, but there's too much MJ. That's why I was like, oh my god, there's too much. I'm already up to like 3 panels. I can't have more in this.
I could have had all my panels from this book. I
100%
forced myself not to. Yeah.
So yeah, awesome book. All right. So
you have a couple of comments here.
Yeah.
So Edward says, I got just for the covers, but who's the best love interest? MJ, Gwen Stacy, or Black Cat? I mean MJ. Sorry.
Man. It's
I'm a Black Cat girl, guy. I love her. I do.
I love all of them in different ways, but yeah, I mean, I love Pete and Black Cat together, but MJ and Pete is classic. So
yeah, I can see that.
I think all 3 bring something interesting. Besides Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man, I think. Like, I like the idea of them, but if you think about them as a couple, they're kind of boring. But now, because of her death, that's like kind of what's brought the relationship to be more interesting. And Gwen as a character is interesting. Also, Jimmy backed up my Kickstarter, so thank you, Jimmy, for always supporting. Nice. I think before they also asked about Last Ember, if you wanted to answer that.
Oh, really? I missed that one.
Yeah, I saw it and I forgot to feature it. So here's the opportunity to talk about it.
All right. I'm trying to find did they ask like what the status is with it or whatever?
They said what's next for it. So what's next for
what's next for it?
There we go.
Oh, gotcha. Hopefully later this year. I don't have a date right now, but hopefully I'm shooting for the middle of the year. We got a couple of things before it in line, so I'll keep you guys updated though.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. So yeah, great book overall. Like I said, I'm the Black Cat guy. I have always loved her. I've loved her since like the 90s Spider-Man, like her voice.
Oh, she was fantastic in that cartoon.
Stuck in my head for life. Like every time I read her, that's how I picture her voice. And she's great. I just love how how seductive she is and just and how she brings out the best out of Peter, you know.
Thank you, Jimmy.
That's great.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I have to. I saw that comment before with Betty Brant. I mean, the name alone. Just, I mean, I have to have to love Betty Brant.
I've
Right?
never honestly put two and two together on that one, so
Really?
that is interesting. No, I never think about it.
Lisa didn't remember her like from the Toby movies. So when we were watching No Way Home, she was like, "Is that a new character?" She noticed the name Betty Brant, and so obviously she was going to ask me about it. I'm like, "No, you don't remember her? Yeah, she was in those movies too. But yeah, she's a classic character."
I mean, both of them are. I think Liz Allen is an interesting character as well, but I think she's interesting alone. I don't think she's interesting as a love interest. And same for Betty.
I agree.
I think Betty as and Flash are a more interesting couple than Peter and Betty. I think they were always interesting.
More interesting than Betty and Ned too.
I don't like Betty and Ned.
I remember when Felicia and Flash went out together.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, they went out together in the '90s series.
No.
I didn't really read the '90s as much, obviously currently, because I wasn't really alive.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I usually skipped the '90s Spider-Man because I was just like, I read Clone Saga, read the important stuff, but it's not really
Clone Saga.
my thing.
I was like, that was like when in the '90s though, I did not read Clone Saga. I did
really.
Not read it.
I feel like I'm glad I read it. Obviously, outside of the time period it was out, I feel like I was able to appreciate it a little bit more, but not too much. I was still like, okay, I guess this is interesting.
I ate the whole thing up when it was coming
really?
out. Honestly,
yeah.
I
was not into the Clone Saga at the time. I was just I kind of stopped reading books at that point. I was like hot and cold with it. And so when I was like, I had no idea what was going on in Spider-Man at that point. So I was like, stay away. So now I have a freaking omnibus of it. So all right. So
I think that's how I don't even remember how I read it. I feel like I got the encyclopedia first of Spider-Man, and then I'm like, Clone Saga, what's that? And then I end up, I guess, getting back issues. But maybe I got a trade. I don't remember.
Right. All right, so let's keep going and let's talk about our number 3. So, Brant, what was your number 3?
Amazing Spider-Man number 87.
Mine too.
Nice. This was a really good issue, and I mean, it just like the Black Cat Mary Jane one. It was more what we're familiar with. It was Pete. It wasn't Ben, and Cap and Black Cat are trying to get him back in Spidey shape, and it was fun.
It.
Yeah. It's so fun.
That's honestly why I think this was such a fun issue, because it's exactly it. It was fun, and I wonder how this run could have been if it was about Peter or not Ben. Could have been better, because every Peter issue I've actually enjoyed. It's just the Ben issues I don't really like.
Yeah. It's just
this. I would agree that this is the best Beyond issue that has come out, and
the artwork could be a little stronger, but story-wise, I thought it was.
I really liked the art in this one.
I thought the artwork was great. I mean,
I think the coloring was very, very bright.
It was.
Zeb Wells wrote this book, so that's who you're getting. That's
Jed McKay.
It's
Jed McKay.
No, it's not Jed McKay. He wrote the epilogue with the Mary Jane portion and the Black Cat portion.
Where she was in the Black Cat outfit.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they credited them wrong on the.
I know, but look at the interior. I know. I said the same thing when Zeb Wells.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Yeah. I said the same thing when I did my episode of After the Poll. I was totally confused on it. But then I put 2 to 2 together. I'm like, oh, he wrote the other portion of that story. So that's what happened there.
That explains why it seamlessly ties into the Black Cat Mary Jane book. Yeah.
So Zeb Wells wrote this main book, and I'm like, this was really well written. So we could get a really good writer, and then we get a crappy artist. And I would love to see Carlos Gomez on this book on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather that.
A hell of a lot better, because what I liked is the stuff that Remuda can't do, right? And the one thing is, look at the facial expression on Felicia. Look at how the bodies are done. Look at the way I like the way Felicia looked in this issue as well. And again, you look at all the character expressions and again, the way they're built, like Spider-Man, the dynamic poses, everything like that. And all that stuff that you see in this book, you're not going to see that when Spider-Man comes out. Which
might leave a bad taste in the writing, which is it's sad because art marries writing and writing marries art. Like sometimes it could be well written, but because of the art, we won't see how well written is because the art's not showing it. So I'm definitely worried about that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
John Romita Jr., I'm telling you, will not be on that book for long. I think 5 issues max.
Max, yeah, I agree. I wish it was 1.
Yeah, 1 and then that's it.
And no offense to Romita fans out there. It's we've talked about it before. It's not
our style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was just so energetic, so fluid. The art in this issue, just so good.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed every.
And I love how it's a feel good issue. I love the encouragement, and I love how he has to earn the title of Spider-Man again, and they're not just going to hand it to him because he was Spider-Man before.
Yeah,
I love that, and it was cool, and it's so good. It was nice to see just even for one issue, just good Spider-Man.
Yeah, and as fan of the Black Cat series and her supporting cast, and seeing like one of them meet Cap, and like you're an inspiration to me, Cap. I always wanted to tell you that kind of stuff. Those little moments, and when they actually stole something, and Cap and Peter look at each other like, we gotta stop him. We really gotta stop him. It's just so. I keep going back to it, but it was just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then I guess I'll do my number 3 real quick, and mine was the book we just talked about, which was the Mary Jane and Black Cat book. So really like that one as well. I tell you, it was tough for me to decide what my top 3 were. It really was. I flipped back and forth multiple times, and I'm just like, oh man, but I made a decision, and I'm just going to stick with it.
I'm betting Saga is y'all's number 1.
We'll have to see. I will say this top 3 was not as hard as the top 3 most anticipated for next week, which we'll get into soon. But that was a topic for this coming week.
I did change one just because. Kat and I had the exact ones in the exact same order. I was like, I can't let that slide.
All right, so the next book we're talking about is Marauders Annual. So this starts the new creative team, and it's going to kick off next week or next month. I don't know, but I was not impressed. I'm sorry. I
didn't think it was as bad as the others, as the previous
stuff.
Yeah,
I agree with you there.
It wasn't like, oh my God, Marauders is back. But I was like, oh, it's interesting that they actually are going to go on a boat and do map stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, at least it's about pirates.
Yeah, the story in this issue I wasn't crazy about. Is whatever. It was just okay, this is how the team comes together. That's what the purpose was. But the mystery that they introduced at the end of it leading into the series was cool. And that
gave me enough. Yeah, it gave me enough to say, oh, I'm going to pick up another issue and be like, oh, this
if
has
there
potential.
was probably any other cliffhanger, I would probably be like,
so I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the formation of the team, personally, I thought was very weak. It was just like, hey, you want to come on my team? Yeah, sure. Hey, you want to come on my team? Yeah, sure. Like they're going to say no. You know, there was just nothing special about it. It was very, I want to say, point A to point B type of issue. That's really what it was.
But I forgive for an annual. I forgave it.
Yeah.
But I hope. I hope the run is stronger, but I do agree, the team could have gotten together better.
Yeah, I thought the art was a little better than the main series.
I agree.
Finally, her hair doesn't look terrible.
Yeah.
Yes, the hair looked very nice in this one.
Yeah, and then, it did, like we said, it gave me hopes for the series with the way it ended, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. All right, so let's talk about Robin issue 10. What'd you guys think about this one?
Weakest issue of the run thus far.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was afraid I was going to be the only one thinking that, but yeah, absolutely the weakest issue of the entire run.
Which is still not a bad comic, but it's just I was expecting so much more. Like,
Well, this
could
is
have been told
what
in a
I'm
different
worried
way.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like we had this great like story with the Lazarus tournament, and then it was like, okay, well, once that's over, where are we going from here with this? I even forgot how it ended. Like, how did it end? I don't even remember.
Ra's
Something about
it wasn't Ra's al Ghul coming in and saying, "I'm going to kill you now, Mom. I should have done it before."
Yeah.
wasn't a fan. Hopefully,
Yeah.
like we said. Well, we know that Deathstroke, Batman, and Robin are getting a crossover, so we'll see if that builds anything.
Yeah, it does worry me though. It's like if it continues down this path, I'd be like, I wish they had just stopped at the end of the tournament and just ended it there.
Exactly. Because what made it so good was obviously the character development of Damian and the introduction of Flatline, Respawn, what's his face?
Connor Hawk.
Connor Hawk. And just I want to see more of that. That's what I want to see. Even
and
if
their
they're
friendship.
and even if I don't want to see them in a tournament, something with them inside of it, right? And I don't need to see the old people fighting each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
All right. So that was Robin. So let's go on to our number 2. My number 2 is Saga. That
Ooh.
Wow.
All right. Well, we know yours is Spider-Man. Your number one's going to be
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Mine was Mary Jane and Black Cat. Issue 1 for 2.
And Brant?
Thor, number 21.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So we talked about the Amazing Spider-Man. We did talk about Wonder Girl. So my number 1 was, yes, the Amazing Spider-Man issue 87. And Kat, yours was Saga?
Mine was Saga.
Yeah. And Brant?
Mary Jane and Black Cat.
Mary Jane and Black Cat.
So we had a pretty similar.
Yeah, it was very similar. We all loved a lot of the same stuff there. All right. So now I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Fowler here. We're going to talk about the most anticipated.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with Kat. Since we changed ours up, I'll go with you. So what were your 3?
So my number 3 is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 88. This is the introduction of the Red Queen. So hopefully it's interesting.
Yeah. That is on my list.
Is it the Red Queen, Red Goblin? What's her
name?
Goblin
Queen Goblin?
I think it's Goblin Queen. I don't know.
I think it's Queen Goblin.
Is it?
Right? Because the Goblin Queen is Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's Queen Goblin, but I'm not sure.
Queen Goblin, which is AKA, we're not spoiling it, but we know who it is.
Yeah, we know.
No, we already know. So it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, this would have been in my exact same spot as yours, Kat, but I moved it up to my
I want to see how this person hopefully we get to see an origin story of how this person became this.
I hope so. That is definitely the biggest hope for that. My number 2 is Fantastic Four Reckoning War Alpha, because I'm hoping this is actually, this has actually been building in this series and it won't feel like Devil's Reign in that regard. It'll actually feel like an event. And I've been loving Dan Slott's run of Fantastic Four. So I have a lot of faith in this.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one, which is all our number ones, is Dark Knights of Steel issue 4. It's so obvious. It's such a fantastic book. It's one of my favorite books that comes out every month. Of course, it's gonna be my number 1.
I think we're gonna get the story here of how Batman, his history, or how he got his powers.
I think it's how when the L ship comes, right?
I think so. I think it has to do something with that, because I think it was Alfred at the end of it saying something like, "Oh, we gotta tell your secret," or I don't know. It was something weird.
Tell your full story. It's the origins, I'm guessing, of how this cheating thing happened or didn't happen. Because I remember that was the line in issue 1 where it's oh, I didn't really cheat. This is just how the relationships were. So I'm curious to see what that's all about.
Yeah. His book is so emotionally driven, and I love, obviously, there seems to be a death every single issue. So I'm curious on who's going to die in this one.
Yeah, it's like Game of Thrones and DC Universe. It's so good. All right.
That's my top 3. So
Yeah. So since mine are very similar, I only changed one book. So I'll go ahead and do my number 3 because my number 2 is Spider-Man. My number 1 is Dark Knights of Steel. So my number 3, I changed to crossover number 11. Just
that
because
was a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was a good cliffhanger, and then the description for this one talks about big revelations as well. So it's got me really curious. What could they top that with? So I'm excited to see what that is. So Mike, what are yours?
So mine was number 3 was Noctera, issue 7. So we're getting the return of that book officially. So just excited to see
brand new art too, right?
Yeah, brand new art. It's coming off of its hiatus, so this is good time to jump on board right now if you want to jump on board after you
or
read
jump off, whichever you need.
No, Kat, you're like one of the only people that don't read this book.
Just don't judge it off that Blacktop Bill special, and you're fine.
This will be the first issue I haven't read of Noctera, so you guys are gonna have to tell me how this issue is.
We're all gonna say how good it is, and you're still not gonna read it. So
probably not. Although this week was a lighter haul, so we'll see. We'll see when I go to the store.
And then we have Batman issue 120. So I am looking forward to that. And I based my top 3 based off of my most anticipated video that I do every week. So I actually went back, watched the video, and saw what my top 3 were. So my Batman was number 2 on my list. So I'm curious to see the whole story continuation with Abyss, and I want to know more about that particular character and where he came from, and how does Batman get out of the situation that he's in right now. So I'm liking this run so far. Nice. And my number 1 was the book we already talked about.
Right.
We're all very excited for it.
Yeah, it's one of the best books out right now.
For sure. Honestly, I remember issue 2 where, usually issue 2 is never as good as issue 1, especially if you had a great issue 1 where I was like, oh my God, this is even better than issue 1. What?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that's our most anticipated. So I guess we're going to start closing it out.
That's it, guys. Yeah. So guys, we appreciate you joining the show tonight. Kat, if you want to just promote your Kickstarter one more time so people can know, how to get it.
Yeah, go check out the Dancer issue 2. You can get issue 1 there as well. It's about a dancer/assassin. Sorry. And when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. We are past our funding, so you definitely will get the book. And we actually got like $200 during this show and like a couple other backers. So definitely jump on board. And it's only 4 issues, so you don't have to, it's on ongoing. So, and it's all done. It will be released. Literally, it's all done. It's been finished for like a year. So it's just been the release schedule of we have so many Kickstarters to release. This is just the time we had the opportunity to do it. So go check it out.
Nice.
Awesome. So very good, guys. So another show in the book. So we appreciate you guys all watching tonight. Hopefully you had a fun time. And maybe we get some really good news coming out this week. Hopefully not tomorrow, but maybe later on in the week so we can talk about it. Right. And guys, if you like the stream, guys, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And of course, you want to make sure you hit that bell to get those notifications so you don't miss the show. And if you like, please subscribe to the channel, which is Comic Book Weekly on YouTube, or Comic Book Corner 2.0, which is my YouTube channel. And of course, you can follow us on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, not so much Instagram, but we put it there anyway. And of course, YouTube. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Good night.
An official happy birthday to Mike because it's 12 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Happy birthday. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Let's
I love
go.
it. Good night, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. That's awesome.